that have been married for a number of years. I read a study a couple of days back, and in this study, it was mentioning that the highest rate of divorces were those 50 and above. And so I felt like I needed to address this issue. So I've made 5 videos so far on this topic. Part of making these videos is I want to make these videos as a prevention, but also as a because prevention just represents that I want to give people the information that they can prevent themselves from falling into these traps that so many people fall into that are in these long-term relationships. I was in a long-term relationship, and so this is part of why this is a topic that I want to discuss, because the relationship failed after being together with a person for decades. And I'm not talking about just some raised kids, had a house, had business, and all the other things that go along with it. So again, my mindset was I wanted to provide something that where people can get the information, where they can start making the necessary changes to change the things that are going on in their life. And we've talked about various different topics. So if this is the first video you're seeing, I have the other ones numbered from 1 to 5. This would be 6, I believe it is. This section, I believe, is 6. Yeah, 6. And so tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about conflict resolution. There's 3 main areas with which most relationships they always fail for. When people get divorced, they get divorced for a couple different reasons. First thing is infidelity. Second thing is money issues or unreconcilable differences. It's always something along those lines. And so when you look at infidelity, that represents the adultery part or the infidelity part. When you look at the money part, that represents it just represents there's not enough income, and that there's struggles in the family, and all of a sudden there's a lot of arguments because it's going to create a lot of tension and things along those lines. And so again, it's always one of the 3 areas. It always deals with irreconcilable differences, infidelity, something along those lines. It's not like it's something new. So to me, you have to address these things. In the first video, we discussed in detail about conversations and communication, the effective way to communicate, and why it's important that when you are communicating that you are a source that actually hears your person and you're attentive, and it's okay that you listen to them, and it's okay for you to let them know that they are seen and that they are heard, because when you do that, you're building a tighter bond, you're building a tighter wedge and a tighter union. Not a wedge, but a tighter union between you and that individual, because you're making them feel special. You're making them know, or you're allowing them to know, that the things that they're saying and what they're discussing is something that's not only important to them, but it's important to you. So when we look at conflict resolution, conflicts are the biggest part. Or I can't say the biggest part, but it's one of the areas that has to be discussed in detail when you meet someone, because you have to know how this person resolves conflicts, because some people resolve conflicts by punching somebody or huffing at somebody, or just throwing things, or there's so many different ways that people resolve, or I can't even say resolve conflicts, but address conflicts, because they don't know how to control themselves. They're out of control. And usually the low vibration people, they act that way. But someone that has a level of maturity and they're willing to have a conversation, that's the person that you want to be in a relationship with anyway. If it's anything outside of that, you're in a toxic, unhealthy relationship. And if I were you, I would get out, because you're going to go through a whole bunch of unnecessary pain and suffering in that particular situation. So when we look at conflict resolution, again, everybody resolves issues different based upon where they were raised, where they came, what they saw around them. What were their experiences? What did they teach themselves to believe that the way that they should resolve issues? Because to me, if we are coming from a place of being mature and adults, and coming from the place of actually resolving the issue, not continue to perpetuate it and keep it going, but resolving. When you resolve something, that means that it's settled, it's done, it's finished, it's final. It's not going to be something that you constantly bring back up, and it's constantly rehearsed and rehashed, and this constant process and pain. No, it's not going to be that. It's going to be something that you discussed. Both of you said your parts. You aired it out. You said everything that you needed to say. And in the process of saying this, you told how you felt about it, whether they agreed with it or not. And then from that point, you moved on. You learned how to not take it personal if they don't agree with you. You came from 2 different backgrounds, 2 different families, 2 different opinions. And so with that, you're not going to see eye to eye on everything that you and your person, you and your spouse, you and your whoever. Uh, you're not going to see everything the same. You're going to see things according to your spectrum, your view, right? So the first thing is a lot of times with conflict resolution, it's ineffective because um, some people do not want to solve issues. Instead of solving the issue, they would rather just be right. And so I wrote down, do you want to solve this issue or do you need to be right? That's what I wrote down because that's important. That's a question that has to be answered. Do you want to solve the issue or do you need to be right? Because it's not about either one of us being right. It's about, is this the right thing for us? If we're having a disagreement, the disagreement is usually going to be about some type of value or something that we should have discussed a lot of times pre all of this. Something of value, something that's about the kids or about money or about whatever, about somebody flirting with you or something. It's always going to be something along those lines. But a lot of times, we should have certain guidelines and boundaries around these areas that can prevent certain things, because some arguments are based upon perception. I perceive that you're going to do certain things. I perceive in my mind without communicating. You can't have a perception in your mind about something that you haven't communicated with a person about, because your perception does not mean that it's their reality of what they're going to do. And so later on, when you have the discussion and you're arguing about it, and with many people, the easiest topic to discuss that with is intimacy, or I'll say sex. If you haven't discussed that, then when you get married, your expectations might be based upon the way that you were when you were single with this person. Now that you're married, you've never discussed it. That your expectations might be shattered because what you want, you're not getting anymore. But you never discussed it. So therefore, there's an argument about this topic. And so because there's an argument, then what ends up happening is, if you're not heard, if after you bring up an issue and you say the way you feel, if you're not heard, then you're going to be hurt, whether you're a man watching this or whether you're a woman watching this, because everybody gets hurt. For those that say that men can't get hurt, something is wrong with your brain. Something is wrong with your brain. Men have emotions just like women. The example of that, have you ever been to a sporting event? You see men, that's emotion, right? Have you ever seen a man angry? That's emotion. Have you ever seen a man cry? I saw a video where this man, his son, at this Mexican family, this son ended up saving his allowance for a year, ended up taking his dad to the soccer matches, the World Cup. This man was crying about the fact that his son took his allowance, which he did not have to do. And this is kind of where this man was coming from. So he was like, son, you didn't have to do this. But he was so overwhelmed about the thought of what his child had done for him, that it just overwhelmed the man, and he was crying. And so this is part of what I'm trying to tell you. So it's going to bring a level of hurt. When there's hurt, there's going to be bitterness, hurt, bitterness, hurt, bitterness. When there's bitterness and hurt in a relationship and it does not get resolved, it's going to go to the next stage, which is going to be a level of resentment. You are going to resent that person. This is a person supposedly that you love, but now all of a sudden the tables are turning and things are starting to unwind. So no longer are you being wound together tighter, but now this thing is starting to get unwound and you're starting to get looser and looser and looser and further and further apart because of the hurt, because of not being seen, because of not being heard, because of no one else, because there's nothing there that is allowing you to feel like this person gives two damns about what you're saying, because they're not showing you that they care. Because if someone really cares, they're going to hear what you have to say. If someone really cares for you, if they're really there for you and they want to be in your life, they're going to really, really, truly be there for you and open up their hearts and listen to the things that you're saying are concerns for you. Because if it's concern for you and if it's hurting you, it's hurting me. This is just real. This is just real, y'all. If it's hurting you, it's got to be hurting me, because we're in this thing together. We are two that have joined together as one. We're two that have combined as one. We're not still separate. This is part of the balance and part of the process of becoming one union, unifying. And so the heart becomes bitterness, and the bitterness becomes resentment. The resentment ends up turning into disdain at some point. And they can always tell when a couple will end up getting divorced, because of when it gets to the level of disdain, that's when that person no longer loves that. They've fallen out of what they would call love with that person. And all of this could be prevented based upon simple things like hearing each other out and not needing to be right, and at least considering what your person is saying, allowing them to know that they're heard and they're seen and that they're important to you, and that we don't have to both agree on this, but we're going to say our part and how we see it, and then we can wash our hands of it and leave it and walk away from it. Because the last part would be loathing, not love, loathing. Loatha, loathe, to loathe. Not loving them anymore, but loathing them. Can't stand them. And you can't stand them at that point because of simple little things that can be fixed. So the first part, like I said, is do you want to solve this issue or do you need to be right? That's the first thing that I wrote down. Second thing is withdrawal. There's some people that the way that they supposedly solve conflicts is that they withdraw. I was around a person that I talked to for a while, and this person, the way that they resolved issues is that they would withdraw. They would go into their cocoon. They wouldn't have anything that they would want to say. And so if you're a person like me, if you're trying to talk to a person, you're trying to have a conversation, at some point, or any person, you're going to get tired of trying to reach this person, trying to ask them like, yo, what's going on? I mean, I'm trying to find out how we can solve this issue, how we can get past this. And if you're constantly coming to a person that you supposedly love and you're trying to talk to them, you're trying to find a way of solving this issue and how to get past this, and then they're not opening up to you, one thing that you need to understand is that a lot of times people use that as a source of manipulation because they want you chasing them. They want you chasing after them and begging them to answer them. Oh, babe, what's wrong? Why and all this nonsense. A mature, grown person is going to tell you what they think and what they feel without being disrespectful or hurtful. Because it's the only way we can come up with a solution. Do we want to come up with a solution? That's the question that I would ask at that point. Or do we want to come up with a solution, or are you good with where things are right now? Because if they're good with where things are, that's a person that used to are not going to. It's going to end up failing. Used to are not going to end up making it at some point because they're withdrawing. They're not addressing. They're withdrawing. Either you're addressing or you're withdrawing. If you're not addressing, that means that you're not a person that's about fighting for the relationship, because you're going to go to either fight or flight. Fight represents that you're addressing it. You're coming before it and you're looking at it and you're looking at the good, the bad, and everything else in between. And you're saying, hey, how can we solve this? How can we come up with a solution to this? We're fighting for this. Part of and if you're in this thing, you would seem like you would want to be in it with someone that's going to fight with you, not fight with you like against you, but fight with you in the foxhole to get to where you two are trying to go. To get to where you're trying to go. Or are they using it in the place, or are they flight? Flight represents that you're not going to address it. You don't want to look at it. You don't want to address it. You want to push it under the rug and act like it doesn't exist. If you're pushing it under the rug and acting like it doesn't exist, it still exists. And just over a period of years and period of time, like a fungus, it's just going to keep growing. There's going to be more tension, more hurt, more bitterness, more resentment, more disdain, and more loathing, to the point where you hate that. You're not going to love that person. You're going to hate that person. You're going to want to get out by any means necessary. You want to get out of there. Third thing is, if you're if you're with a person, or if you're in the type of relationship where when you have conflicts that this person is resorting to personal attacks, that's the wrong person to be in a relationship with, because personal attacks is not going to bring a solution. It's going to magnify the problems in that house. You doing a personal attack against a person that you supposedly love is belittling them, and you're attacking them instead of attacking the problem. Your focus is wrong. Your focus would be wrong. The attack should be against the problem, not the person. Addressing the problem, not the person. If you're addressing the person, you're going to build a level of bitterness and resentment and disdain because of the hurt. You're going to hurt them in the process of attacking them personally. Attacking them personally. When there's a process, number 4 would be repeating an argument or disagreement over and over again, but never accepting any of the suggestions. Again, this is part of the way that people are manipulators in relationships and in life that you're going to meet. They don't have any intent on bring or coming up with a solution or solving this or wanting it solved or believing that it can be solved. The only thing that they want to do is keep all of the mess going, keep all of the nonsense going. If you're in here, for those that are going to see this later on, go back to the beginning and watch this video from the beginning. There's a lot of good information that's going to help you if you're thinking of getting in a relationship or if you're in one and you've been in one for a long. There's things that you can go do and go back and heal those things and salvage what you have if you desire to, and move on with your life. Instead of being like the 40%. Which are breaking up and going into divorce that are over 50. People that have been in years, 20 years, 30 years, 35, 38 years of marriage, and now they're getting divorced because of simple things that can be fixed. But many times we don't know what we don't know. And if you don't know, you don't know. When you see this, put that in the chat. I don't know. And the last thing was lack of repair after conflict. When there is a conflict, you have to make sure, again, that there is a resolution. The only way that you can repair what would happen is that if both parties are willing to resolve the issue. That's why I started with the first thing is, do you want to solve this issue or do you need to be right? That's the first thing. Because tonight we're talking about conflict resolution. Do you want to solve the issue or do you want to be right? That's the first thing I started with. If they don't want to solve the issue, but they want to be right, they're already showing you that there will be no resolution. Nothing will be resolved. If nothing's going to be resolved, we're wasting our time talking. Of course, there are some people that, they'll say, look, give me a moment. And they'll say, let's back away from this and we'll come back to this. Give me like an hour. Let me meditate. Let me do the prayer. Let me do whatever I need to do. Let me come back to this in a little while, because right now where I'm feeling upset. But still, you have to communicate that you should be able to communicate that to your person and just tell them, look, just give me a moment. Let me clear my head. Let me, there's some people that have to do that. I don't know. I don't, but I'm saying there's some that do, which I found. And so my point with that is that if you're with a person like that, part of you being with them is understanding, again, because I've already discussed this, understand the way that people deal with situations or resolve it or address it or don't address it. At least that person is willing to address it. They just need a moment to get themselves together, to get themselves in a clearer space, which is better, because then they're not all the attention, all the energy and all of this. It's not as high. It's probably a lot lower. And so the lack of repair after conflict, like I said, would be number 5. And it's important to repair each other. And that's why it's important not to attack each other. And it's important to hear each other and see each other and know that you are there for them and they're there for you. Because when you really know that, it should give you a level of safety, because part of you being with a person is establishing a level of safety. You should feel safe with that person. You should feel safe knowing that you can trust them, because you both have gone through a process. They're showing you that they're in the foxhole with you and that they're willing to fight the good fight and that they're willing to stay faithful. And yes, there will be conflicts and little things that will arise and will come up, but you've been equipped to overcome these things, because greater is the Most High that's in you than these things, these little things that we magnify, that we make larger than what they are. Greater is the Creator that's in you than these things that are in this world. And so again, I'm going to start with what I ended with and end with what I started with. Do you want to solve the issue, or do you need to be right? That would be my thought. And that would be the main thought that I would come from tonight. When there is conflict in a relationship, the question that any couple that is serious about growing and evolving and becoming united in one, are you willing to solve this issue, or do you need to be right? That's the question that we both parties need to ask themselves and answer. If they're willing to solve it and resolve it, then there's a potential for those two to grow and to move on into progress. Appreciate y'all, each and every one of y'all for watching. Thank each and every one of y'all for being here. Thank you, Latanya. And I appreciate each and every one of y'all for watching and sharing and subscribing and all that other good stuff. Um, and yeah, that's true. Yeah, and so you have any questions, Lakai? If there's no questions, I'm going to end. I got on here a little late today because I lost track of time. I was in my other. I was working on some things. So I was out all day and I was working on some things. And when I looked up, it was already 7:00. I was like, my God, what happened? I didn't. The time